337. 26 knots, down the Eagle. 106, your interval is a Rhino at 5. Good. 07 on right back on course 1 mile. Good.
In the evening of the 31st of October 2003, a dozen or so men of A Squadron, the 22nd S.A.S. Regiment, moved to the Iraqi town of Ramadi in search of a Sudanese man facilitating the arrival of foreign fighters into Iraq. Equipped with night vision goggles and with their weapons loaded, two teams converged on the target buildings before breaching the entrances. On the right, Team 2 entered their building and secured it against minimal opposition. On the left, however, Team 1 ran into a wall of enemy fire, which became too heavy and forced them back. With this latest development, a third S.A.S. team was brought forward which cleared a nearby building and began providing fire support to Team 1. Meanwhile, as Team 1 regrouped, it was realised that two men were still in the courtyard, and an effort was made to locate them. One of the soldiers was Corporal Ian Plank, who was sadly killed in action during the initial assault. The other missing soldier had also been wounded, but had managed to crawl himself to cover. Two men from Team 1 immediately volunteered to go in and extract him, and under enemy fire, the two were able to lift the soldier to his feet and make their exit. With everyone accounted for, a new plan was undertaken, which saw a fourth S.A.S. team clearing a neighbouring building, whilst a supporting US Bradley armoured fighting vehicle moved forward and levelled the compound. Although the Sudanese man had not been captured alive, it was later asserted that he was most certainly killed in the raid. The success of Operation Abalone, as the raid was codenamed, was a major turning point for future S.A.S. operations within Iraq. Not only did it lead to them receiving a substantial amount of equipment, namely a handful of Chinooks from No. 7 Squadron RAF, but it also led to the formation of a new unit within the country, Task Force Black. Formed in early 2004, Task Force Black was initially composed of an S.A.S. squadron forward deployed to Baghdad and its supporting RAF Chinooks. At the time of its forming, B Squadron was based in the Iraqi capital, and it would be this squadron who would lead Task Force Black onto its first major mission in February of 2004. Codenamed Operation Aston, the objective of the mission was to disrupt a network that was overseeing the arrival of Iranian fighters into Iraq. Under the cover of darkness, several teams from B Squadron deployed to the target located in the south of Baghdad. With teams coming in from the front and rear, the S.A.S. began the process of room clearance, during which a total of 2 enemy were killed and several more were captured. The success of Aston set the tone for many of Task Force Black's missions for the remainder of 2004, and was a key influence in them receiving new equipment. Added to its inventory were 4 Puma helicopters from No. 33 and No. 230 squadrons, in addition to a handful of C-130 Hercules transport aircraft from No. 47 Squadron. In the afternoon of the 30th of January 2005, one of the C-130 Hercules transport aircraft took off from the Iraqi capital for the small town of Balad, approximately 50 miles to the north. 30 minutes into the flight, the crew sent out a distress call, followed by the aircraft disappearing from the radar. Coalition aircraft were soon scrambled to search for the plane, and soon a couple of US helicopters discovered the site of its crash. All 10 crew members were killed in the incident, which was quickly claimed by an insurgent group operating in the vicinity. It wasn't long before news of the crash reached the men of Task Force Black, who set out to find those responsible. After a large intelligence operation, which lasted most of the year, the attackers were located, which culminated in a series of raids by Task Force Black which led to their death or capture. Simultaneously, in concert with this intelligence effort, information was provided to Task Force Black regarding the location of Fadil Ibrahim Al-Mashadani, who had previously served within Saddam Hussein's government. On the night of the 11th of April 2005, several teams from G Squadron were deployed to the house Fadil was in. Launching a coordinated assault, the S.A.S. encountered no resistance and captured their target alive. At this point in its history, the task force was being reinforced with further support assets. Among the new arrivals were elements of the 18th Signals Regiment and the Special Reconnaissance Regiment, who were to assist the force in intelligence matters. Additionally, a detachment of operators from the Special Boat Service were provided to the force, and it was this group who were to have a leading role in the force's next major mission, Operation Marlborough. The aim of Operation Marlborough was to stop a suspected terror attack in Baghdad. There were 3 individuals who were to be neutralised as part of the mission, in addition to the seizure of the safe house, which was located in the city's southern suburbs. On the morning of the 23rd of July 2005, a team made up of the Special Boat Service operators began to approach the target building. Providing air cover to the assault were a couple of Puma helicopters, which had a total of 4 S.A.S. snipers on board. Advancing forward, the S.A.S. had a shock encounter when a man outside the building detonated his suicide vest. Fortunately, he had done so too early to cause any casualties within the assault team. At the same time, one of the Puma helicopters had observed a second man leaving the target. Swinging round, one of the onboard snipers took a shot which neutralised the insurgent. It was discovered afterwards he was likewise armed with a suicide vest. The assault team now breached into the building itself, in search of the third and final suspect of the operation. Upon entering the bottom floor, a man appeared and was immediately cut down by the forward trooper. Pressing on, the team cleared each room until they were satisfied that they had neutralised all 3 suspects. In the wake of the success of Marlborough, Task Force Black was soon plunged into a crisis, when 2 of its own were captured in the Iraqi city of Basra in the southeast of the country. On the morning of the 19th of September 2005, 2 undercover S.A.S. troopers were arrested by the Basra City Police. On hearing the news, Task Force Black dispatched a group of 50 men to Basra to execute a rescue operation. The speed and energy with which the Task Force's headquarters had responded with stood in stark contrast to that of the officials overseeing the British deployment in Iraq, who opted for peaceful negotiations rather than a military operation. There then arose the problem when the 2 S.A.S. prisoners were transferred from the Basra prison to a house on the city's outskirts. Fearing the 2 men were going to be executed, the order was given for a rescue mission at 9 p.m. on the 19th of September. At the Basra prison, over 10 Challenger 2 tanks and Warrior infantry fighting vehicles smashed their way through the complex's outer wall and outlying buildings. On the ground, a team from Task Force Black moved in and cleared the prison. Several miles away, teams of S.A.S. troopers surrounded and assaulted the house against no opposition, and in the process freed their colleagues. The whole episode received widespread media attention, and for the first time since its forming in 2004, the name Task Force Black was published to the world. This leak of information saw Task Force Black undergo a series of reforms, which included a name change to Task Force Night. Additionally, the Chinooks from No. 7 Squadron and the detachment from the Special Boat Service departed the force. In their place, a company of paratroopers from the 1st Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, and several Lynx helicopters from No. 657 Squadron were embedded into Task Force Night. The paratroopers were themselves formed into a new subunit within Task Force Night, which was appropriately named Task Force Maroon. Just 2 months after the events in Basra, Task Force Night was once again pulled into another rescue operation, this time on their doorstep in Baghdad. British civilian Norman Kember was part of a 4-man group that had travelled to Iraq to oppose the coalition. On the 26th of November 2005, Kember, alongside 2 Canadians and 1 American, was kidnapped in the Iraqi capital and held hostage by a local militant group. The kidnapping became Task Force Night's top priority, which led to them becoming operationally closer with their American counterparts. The strengthening of ties between the American and British Special Forces eventually saw Task Force Night becoming an integrated part of the US Joint Special Operations Command in January 2006. The British force was subordinated to Task Force 145, which was a special forces unit made up of America's elite troops. At the time of the British integration, Task Force 145 was structured as follows. Task Force Night, which was centred on the 22nd S.A.S. Regiment. Task Force Red, which was centred on the 75th Ranger Regiment, Task Force Blue, which was centred on Navy SEAL Team 6, Task Force Green, which was centred on Delta Force, and finally Task Force Orange, which was the intelligence arm of Task Force 145. With this integration came closer cooperation with the US Special Forces, which went into fruition in the search for Norman Kember and his group. Throughout early 2006, many raids were conducted by Task Force 145, acting on intelligence leads, but Kember still remained missing. That was until early March when the body of Tom Fox, the American, was found, which increased the urgency to find the remaining 3. Eventually, a raid carried out by Task Force Knight led to the capture of a person linked to the kidnappers, and after a period of interrogation, he revealed the location of Kember and the 2 Canadians. Consequently, on the morning of the 23rd of March 2006, a team from Task Force Knight deployed to the target building, and upon encountering no resistance inside, rescued the hostages. The successful rescue of Norman Kember and his 2 Canadian colleagues marked the beginning of an intense year for Task Force Knight, as it was about to take the fight directly to Al-Qaeda.